Hello and good morning. This is Lawrence Gary with Across the Veil. I'm hoping to take a few moments in the middle of my weekend work and upcoming Mother's Day. Happy Mother's Day, everybody, coming tomorrow. Today is May 12th. And I had promised on the board, on the Facebook wall this week, for this weekend, to have some dialogue about free will, and not only that, but in relation intent, purpose, setting goals, that sort of thing. I'm going to be brief, and I'm going to use my subject of reference. You can apply this any way that you like. If I refer to any particular theology, don't consider it me trying to convert you one way or the other, but simply the frame of reference to express the ideas which I intend to get across. So let's begin. We've discussed in previous notes and dialogues that mankind has the ability to reason, and reason and logic is all defined a good deal by free will, and free will is it's a unique variable. It's a human variable, and although we see potential for free will in the rest of the spectrum, meaning plants and animals, they don't demonstrate free will proper, for they are entirely defined by instinct and or their need to consume and so forth. So to put that into perspective, I want to talk about the story in the Bible, in the book of Genesis, because it'll give a frame of thought for this dialogue. So in the book of Genesis, in the Bible, in the Christian Bible, it doesn't matter what translation, it describes the fall of man. And in this depiction, it talks about how God, or the Creator, had said to his creation, his people, these humans, here's this garden. You can live in it. You can eat anything that you wish, but do not eat of the tree of knowledge. The symbolism there, the analogy there, is very unique. The tree of knowledge. So, for many, this depiction is descriptive of this magical fountain of knowledge. And if you eat of it, suddenly you have this great wisdom, and all of these things. And in truth, it's an analogy for a result. So let's look at the characteristics, what's going on. So many people that are questioning with curiosity, or questioning their faith and so on within the Christian communities, one of the questions that they may ask is, why would God put a tree, or put anything for that matter, that would cause a temptation and allow man to sin and break up his great plan? And this is my response to that. Here's what happened. When Eve and Adam, Eve first and then Adam next, ate of that fruit, they knew that they were going against God's wishes. And in essence, this really kind of defines the entire scope of free will. And it does so because we are actually literally able to say no to God. And that's what's being described. The ability to say no to that which is our Creator. Okay? Now, as a programmer, one of the things that I've considered in great detail is the ability to create an artificial consciousness, and either with a computer or some sort of device. And the highest of prerequisites for artificial consciousness is free will, to make decisions outside of what I command it to do. And in order for that to happen, there has to be the random nature, the unpredictable nature of this machine, or whatever it is, to be able to say no to me and do whatever it wants to do. Now let's add a little bit of texture to that idea. So now if we take into consideration that if I command a machine to say I love you, what impact does it have on me? Well, I've just typed it in and I pressed a button, and over the speaker I heard I love you. Woohoo! I don't think I'm going to break into tears, but at the same time, if my son comes to me and he says, Daddy, I love you, that has meaning, and that has character, and it has the character of, quite frankly, not only does he not have to say it, he doesn't even have to love me. Okay? So what is the meaning of someone's love if they are forced or programmed to say it? It has no value. It loses its value. Okay? So now that we've said that, now let's consider the analogy, the tree of knowledge. Once you've realized, in this frame set, in this scope, or within this story, this Genesis story, it describes how the tree of knowledge, okay? And then it even depicts, shortly after the fall, it depicts how it has a verse that says something along the lines, God saying, they are like us, knowing good and evil, okay? Once you know that you can do what you want to do outside the Creator's best wishes, outside the harmony that is this so-called Creator's plan, suddenly there is the potential, much like any child, to simply do what's not wanted, and there are consequences. So when my child gets into trouble, there are consequences. Whether it be time out or whatever the consequence may be. Okay. So we realize that we have to take some extra measures in order to and we don't punish just because, as parents. And this is a great frame of reference as well. As parents, we don't punish because we just want them to do what we say. We punish because we want to make sure that they're doing things that are safe. Clearly, if they're 3 years old and they're playing with a knife, they have the potential to hurt themselves because they simply don't have the experience to avoid harm. So when we tell them to do something, or we ask them of something, we're doing so because we care for them and we want them to either be more prepared, and so on and so forth. The idea of that, however, is that someday they will become an adult and they will be able to, they'll have the experience and be able to, make these decisions for themselves, because in great part we've trained them and gave them the experience that they needed. Okay, so now let's take this to the next step. So we've talked about ruling out the machine, providing the random variable of free will. And then from there we have some insight, into a key characteristic of man. So let's take this to the next level: practical application. Practical application, free will. The free will is the seed of intent. Free will is the seed of purpose or setting goals and so forth. And so in that frame of reference, for me, it's been my experience, ever since I was a child, that when I wanted to have a lucid dream, or if I wanted to have specifically a dream of flying, which I learned only within the past few years that this was actually a demonstration of low-level astral projection, I suppose. And I was doing this naturally, and I found that even prior to really understanding what it was that I was doing, I was having greater success by suggesting to myself before I went to sleep that I would have these dreams and that I would experience these activities and so forth. Flying was the universal motivator for me, that's what I wanted to do. That's why I got involved with the topic matter to begin with, because once I had experienced it, I wanted to experience it again, and so forth. So, recently, over the past, few years, I've come in contact with more and more people that have experience in this field, and they're very clear. Those that are capable of doing this, and take from this what you will, but those that have success in doing this and are able to trigger it at will and so forth, the key characteristic there is the will, the willing yourself into these states. So I guess I don't mean to, tell yourself that you need to press yourself and force yourself. I don't think that's what's important. I think it's about consistency. I think it's about being on topic, and I think it's about, like meditation, for example. I think a lot of people meditate with great success because they're actually sitting down with the intent to project. That is their purpose. That is why they sat down. So, consider that. When it's on the tip of your tongue, when you're suggesting it to yourself, that is when you have much more consistent success. Now, it's also been suggested to me that one of our initial guides that we come in contact with is actually a higher form of ourselves, and how it presents itself. It's also been suggested to me that your higher self, if you're a man, presents itself as a woman, and if you're a woman, it presents yourself as a man. I've witnessed that for myself, but I can't say, and it was a woman, but I can't say for certain that this is absolutely true, but I believe that it is. But the idea that, throughout the day and in all of your waking moments, you can, by communicating with yourself, your internal dialogue, you can think very simply, I am now communicating with my higher self. Cause yourself to focus within that scope, and give yourself the intention to speak with your higher self. And and for frame of reference, I think this is very much like prayer. I wouldn't necessarily say it was worship. That's certainly not what I do, but I do have this internal dialogue where I think about my higher self, and I ask of it to essentially work with me to produce particular results. And thus far, with that added, aside from just having the intent and suggesting to myself and having consistency and so forth, with that added little bit of dialogue, internal dialogue, and the envisioning myself as though I am speaking to my higher mind, I have found an even greater consistency with my projections and so forth. And I really feel like this is something that is universally characteristic. I think this is something that many of the people that are listening to this or on this board or interacting with this board are already experiencing to some degree, and maybe they haven't really placed all the labels or defined it as such, but I think maybe naturally we do these things, and particularly those of us that are experiencing these things. So, as I promised, I wanted to have some dialogue of free will, of intent. I wanted to give some frame of reference, some scope, I really just kind of wanted to point out that free will is one of those things that really define us as beings, and in contrast with plants and animals, the other forms of life that exist in the world that we can see and observe and so forth. So take that into consideration. Let's do some highlights. So free will is the seed of intent, purpose, and goals, and it is the intent and the purpose and the desire that brings us to a focus that allows us these added insights, if that's all we wish to label them, whether it be astral projection or lucid dreaming, that sort of thing. Be aware that many astral projections take the forms of dreams, and they take the form of lucid dreams, and they are very much real in the sense that typically they have a message, and this message is coming from and I suppose there's room for debate here, but I think a great deal of the messages are coming from your higher mind, your higher understanding, your universal consciousness, and providing you information that relates directly to your life and relates directly to your experience. And you may find a good deal of symbolism, and many Jung and Freud and all these other people that are talking about symbolism and dreams and so forth. It's all about context, and consider that it's all about context, the frame of context. Within a conversation, any word can have multiple meanings, particularly in the English language, and that meaning is often defined by the sentence or the paragraph that it's used in. It's within context. So if you're seeing objects, or if you're having particularly situations that play out, you can take that context as defining something about yourself that maybe you didn't know before, or just some kind of message. So it seems like we've got this constant dialogue. So intent, purpose, goals, desire. If you don't want it, and simply you may not. Many don't. To be honest, and simply the ability to ask and to suggest and to focus in that direction, and basically have this topic on the tip of your tongue. And I'm not expecting you to grit your teeth and stress your muscles. I'm looking for for me, I'm looking for consistency, and I'm looking to think about this. And when I go and lay down for sleep, I go to sleep thinking about projecting. I go to sleep thinking about flying. I go to sleep thinking about these things. And throughout the day, I will have this internal dialogue with myself, with the expectation that my higher mind is simply listening to whatever it is that I desire, and that I desire most, the most will, or has proven to work. So with that said, let's have some dialogue on this topic. I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. I'd love to hear how you've applied it for yourself. And I will continue to add content as I come available. I've got a lot of work this week, but by all means, touch base with me on the board, ask questions, provide me with insight. I'm always a student, and I look forward to your thoughts. Take care.